So let's start with some of the good news first. I mean, corporate taxes, we know that story. We need to be more competitive. But there's also this other little nugget in there, Grover, and that's that basically the child tax credit would not be allowed for illegal immigrants. I guess, Grover, it's kind of amazing to me that it is allowed right now, that illegal immigrants do get money back from the government. Explain that one and how it needs to change.
Well, we haven't, on some of these issues, really looked for fraud in the tax code. You hear about people getting refunds who don't pay taxes, people getting refunds who aren't citizens. And I think that the Republicans, with a Republican House, Senate, and Republican president, are willing to look at some of these refundable tax credits and be serious about not writing checks to people who ought not to be getting checks from the government. So
makes sense.
There's a lot of we've talked about pro-growth policies, increasing the value of the stock market, reducing the tax burden, simplifying the tax code. There's also an anti-fraud part to this tax reform, and that's one of the things you're talking about right there.
Good, good. We need that. So, you know, lots of good news in there, that it does give the middle class a little bit of a tax break. It does provide a tax break for corporations, which will mean great things for our economy. I'm all for that. I'm all for getting rid of the fraud. But you know me, Grover, and you know I'm a little bit greedy. So there are still deficiencies in this, which I'm a little disappointed with. And I'll start with, for example, this bubble tax thing. You know, if you make a certain amount of money, you're going to wind up getting taxed more, 12% more, in fact. What is your thought on that? Or rather, 6%. What is your thought on that? You could see your rate go up to 45.6%.
Okay. There are a number of pieces here that take place because they're trying to fit 2 pounds of sausage in a 1.5 pound bag. And so they have certain things that lapse after a few years or after 10 years that we really know will be made permanent. Faster depreciation, the per-child tax credit, some of the, on the Senate side, the individual rate reductions. So the good news for those, you look at this and say, well, when are we going to fix that? In April, we have another reconciliation package, meaning we're going to do welfare reform, Medicaid, welfare, TANF, just as Bill Clinton did. Obama's undone a lot of the welfare reform that Clinton and Bush had, food stamps and so on. When you block grant those out to the states and bend the cost curve down just a little bit, you save a great deal of money out over the next 50 years.
And so you think you can change things back on the individual side so that you don't disincentivize people from earning money?
And we are going to take those resources, that opportunity, and make permanent a lot of the tax cuts on the individual side and fix any of those things that were there simply because you were trying to fit inside a too small package. So make a list of the things that
I will. I've been making a list, Grover.
Okay.
So I'll be happy about hitting them with it in April, but I kind of wish they could have fixed some of this stuff now. I mean, I'm talking about the private equity carried interest. That was something that the president campaigned on. He promised to get rid of it, and no one bothered to get rid of it. So private equity bankers, fat cats on Wall Street, can continue to count their income as investment and therefore pay lower tax. Another problem I have with this is I'm not so sure about the whole SALT thing. I get it fundamentally in principle, and Grover, you've known me a long time. You know I don't like the idea one single bit of New Hampshire or Texas having to subsidize New York, which is effectively kind of what they're doing. When we get the tax break in New York, we can deduct state and local. That said, this is going to hit hard. A lot of higher earners throughout the country, they can't deduct their property taxes. They can't deduct state. They can't deduct local. And I just question what effect that is going to have immediately on the economy, Grover.
The immediate effect, there's a wonderful article in Politico and another one in the Washington Post quoting the leaders in New York, California, and New Jersey saying, we were going to raise a millionaire's tax, but now we can't. Well, now we have to rethink everything.
Well, I know where you're going, and that would be healthy.
This stops tax increases and will force
I guess
rates
I just don't
down.
entirely trust Bill de Blasio, as Charlie Gasparino likes to call him, Comrade de Blasio, here in New York City to actually reduce the tax rate. But I understand the pressure.
Even Lenin, when people started leaving Russia, had this moment where he had to liberalize for a little bit because people were leaving too quickly. And New York has that problem. Yeah. People will leave if they don't bring both the property taxes down and the individual income taxes. All right. Well, Grover Norquist,
I'll keep working on my list. Thank you. Good. It's good to see you. Happy Thanksgiving.
You too.